that's true. Naked Palpatine.
Oh, you pick that one. Fresh out of the clone tank, nude Palpatine is my
Well, that's the first thing I think of when you say Dark Empire Palpatine. Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Warrior Prophet, the second book in the Prince of Nothing series by R Scott Bakker. I can't say I'm enjoying it, but I can. I'm enthralled. I'm engaged. But at no point am I particularly happy with the events going on. Forgive me, it's been a little bit since I read it. I'm already like 300 pages into 1,000-fold thought. I haven't had a chance to do a review. Also, getting over a cold. Acamian, Esminette, Surly, Nair, Kellis, Prius. We continue our march of the Holy War. And throughout this book, Kellis continues to gain influence, continues to manipulate the scenes, continues to just kind of win over everyone. Oh, well, except for a handful. One being Nair, obviously. But it's this inevitability of what Kellis is doing. And even though, do we even root for Kellis? What about him is genuine, if anything at all? I don't know. And some of the things that happen, you can kind of call it from a mile away, and it's uncomfortable, There are such truths uttered from Kellis, as he so likes to do, as a part of Logos. But then, are these women truly making their choices, or are they being coerced against their will? I don't know. I do know it. It definitely is that. But a part of them also desires it. So it's a bit confusing on that front. It's a rough time. It's an intriguing time. If you enjoyed the first book, or if you were as engaged as I was, it's a must. There's a lot to this, and I'm just one man. I'm not Philip Chase, I'm not Raph, I'm not Jimmy, I'm not Joanna, or any of the other millions of people, not millions, definitely not millions, but, any other people have talked about it on the internet. People tend to like this one the best. I would tend to agree the structure just kind of works perfectly with the pace of the marching to the inevitability. I don't love the characters in terms of, I suppose the closest to moral in this story would be Acamian, in terms of doing the least evil, but I guess the least evil would be the females, the Surway, Esminette. But even with them, their lack of agency, or what appears to me to be lack of agency, is uncomfortable. But I enjoy reading about all these characters. I mean, from Nair to Kellis himself, Prius, Convis, Esminette, Acamian, all these characters. Their stories are fascinating. The prose of Bakker continues to be exquisite. And it is the only thing that is making me power through all this. I mean, if it was any lesser author, I'd probably just say not for me. The only reason I endure is because of his writing. So there's that. And of course, these books continue to be a critique on faith, a critique on free will, though that is less prevalent here, as I hear will be in the next series. But that is definitely a main part of it, though not really at the forefront of this particular series. Honestly, it's a bit hard to talk about this book non-spoilers. But if you were engaged in the first one, you have to read this one. And if you couldn't stand the first one, this is not going to fix it for you. That being said, I think it was an exquisite second edition. And I do think in many ways it surpasses the first. And so far is my favorite of the trilogy. I'm going to get to some spoilers. If you don't want any spoilers, well, there's the door. So, I have a few things. So first I must refer to phone. Apparently it's my first note. Got my other phone. And we go to... He has, as you likely know, many names. The men of ancient Kunuri called him Faru, I don't know. From which we derive no god. In ancient Karines, he is simply called Tishurama, the hated one. The non-men of Ishariel called him with the peculiar poetry that belongs to all their names, Kara, Sin Kuramoi, the angel of endless hunger. He is well named. Never has the world known a greater evil, a greater peril. What is he then? An unclean spirit? No. Many demons have walked this world. If the rumors about the Scarlet Spires are true, some walk this world still. No, he is more, and he is less. Acamian fell silent. Perhaps the Prince of Erether ventured. We shouldn't speak. I've seen him, Kellis. As much as any man can, I've seen him. Not far from here, at a place called the Plains of Mengeda. The shattered hosts of Kerinis and her allies hoisted their pennants anew, determined to die grappling the foe. That was 2,000 years ago. I just like that portion of it. Kellis and Acamian continue to talk, and it's super intriguing and super interesting. Zarius, the Emperor, hurt people. Now, again, this also plays into the patriarchy of this particular setting. You know, it is a complicated affair. The Emperor's mother clearly wanted to be in a position of power. She likes that. We are in a world where women don't really have that. So she's covering all of her bases. So when her child is young, she touches her child in a way that no parent should. And that's going to mess him up. So there's understandably some hatred there, as we saw in the first book. As we begin this one, Zarius, like his mother, is a pedophile. Hurt people. As a child, he was a victim, but now he is just the abuser. In this section, he basically gets a child and proceeds to do things. It was an uncomfortable section to read, but I understand what has shaped him into that. Nature versus nurture. Would he have turned out like that if not for his mother? Probably not. But then does free will even exist? But that's more of a thing in the next series that we'll discuss. Not really super prevalent here, but I think it's due to the actions of his mother that she chose to enact that caused this. It's still his fault. He could have chose to be better. I believe that. The whole notion of this, and we'll get into this in future books, of no free will, of determinism, whether that be from a religious perspective or an atheistic perspective, it doesn't hold water to me, because your very existence, everything you do, is a choice. You believe that fundamentally. Otherwise, we couldn't have law and order. How do we punish someone if they had no choice in what they would do? We don't send someone to jail because they were out of control. They have no control. They must be. We do have crazy people that go to asylums or they'll go to prison, yes, because they're not safe on the outside. But most of the time when you go to court, the way things are, it's usually as it's your decision, it's your fault. Why would we ever, judge people and critique people if they have no control of their actions? I'm not going to get political, but look at I mean this to anybody. If you're thinking of somebody else, then you're the problem. Whatever aisle you land on, how can you get angry at whatever you oppose? I don't care which way you swing. But if you try to oppose anything, how can you do such things if they were always meant to believe as they have? You could argue, you could scream, but at no point did they have any choice ultimately in their destination. It's just an endless spiral, and we don't live our lives that way. So is it just some grand denial? Maybe. But everything you intuit, everything you are, is opposed to that notion. So I just don't think that holds much water. Religious arguments or atheistic arguments, I think determinism just fails. But that's a bigger discussion for a future book. That being said, they're held accountable. It is their fault. We also see Elizaris, the Grand Master of the Scott Spires. This book definitely steps up the horniness compared to the last book. And it's a bit weird because, we get to be inside everybody's head, except for Kellis. So there's a bit more of, or very rarely in Kellis. So we get to be inside of Camian's head, and he even, harps on childlike features of woman. I'm like, why? I don't know. We're referring to my phone again, or the other phone. Sorry. It's late, and it's been a while since I properly read it I tried to ruminate on it, but time kept passing. Essentially, St. Genis is saying, give without expectation of reward, and you can expect a huge reward. Camion frowned. Don't you see? Sankla continued. He's saying that piety consists of good acts in the absence of selfish expectation. He's saying you give nothing. Nothing. When you expect something in exchange, you simply don't give. Camion caught his breath. So the Enrithi who expect to be exalted in the outside give nothing. Sanclad said, laughing in disbelief, nothing, but we, on the other hand, dedicate our lives continuing Sithwatha's battle. We give everything and we can expect only damnation as a result. We are the only ones, Akka. And a point to this. So, actually, I'm going to look at that again. Sorry about this. I'm trying to be quiet, it's late, but we can expect a huge reward. I don't remember. I had a huge point here. I don't remember. But what I'm getting, and again, I can't speak to all faiths, but this is very much, a sort of mirror of Christianity and the Crusades and all that. And what I will say is that a lot of Christians, and clearly a lot of atheists, have the wrong impression when it comes to good works and stuff, and faith and all that. You don't do good deeds because you expect a reward or because you're trying to win brownie points with God. If we're talking about Christianity, there's no need for that. The reason you are giving, the reason you're self-sacrificial, the reason you are helpful, you feed the poor, is not because you're trying to win brownie points with God. God already did all of it in the Christian myth. It's been done. It's paid for. It's done. Now that you're cleansed. It doesn't mean you get to do whatever you want, but you are not held accountable. It's like if you owed $1 million or $1 billion bail and you simply couldn't pay it off. They did their whole court thing. If you can pay $1 billion, you can leave. If you can't, you're gonna spend time in prison. And then somebody comes in and goes, I paid it. You're good. Now, still absolutely guilty of the crime, but you've been set free. You do good acts, at least in the Christian tradition, because of what has been done for you. Okay? So, it's not an expectation of a reward or a gift for good deeds. You do good deeds because the ultimate good deed is already being done for you. So you should do it for everyone else. That is the idea. So, I just want to make that distinction. Because YouTube is about, what's that thing I like to say when I get super serious? Broadcast yourself. That's what I'm doing. So, it is a case of, good works are not done because you need to win favor with God. There is no winning favor. You submit to someone who already paid the price, or you pay the time for your decisions. It's as simple as that. There is no, I'm better than someone else. There's none of that. I'm just a beggar trying to tell another beggar where the food is. I don't deserve anything. I'm not better or worse than anyone. Actually, I'm probably worse than a lot of people who are self-proclaimed atheists. They probably morally put me to shame. I'm fully willing to admit that. The only difference between me and them is that I think I have a problem and that I need help. That's it. But the reason I try to be good and kind is not for some reward on my part, because I don't deserve any reward. No amount of good works is going to do that. The greatest reward has already been given to me by virtue of belief. I'm called to then do good to others because it's already been done for me. It's not out of obligation. It's not out of to win brownie points. It's to be thankful to what's already been done for you, that you should do that for other people. Let me get off this point. Prohibitions against strongly were as severe as those against witchcraft. Astrology, sorry. Prohibitions against astrology were as severe as those against witchcraft. Interesting, just because there's all the schools of magic, but you can't be an individual and use it without being a part of one of them. Comphis gets suspicious of Callus. Callus has this moment with fake Sarcellus. We move on to part 2, the secret march, the second march. Xarius and Mathonet have a scene, which is pretty interesting. Proeus and Ximnus following the word. I'm trying to remember what a lot of these notes meant. There's a very fantastic written part of the book where Callus goes on preaching about suffering is to belong, you know. To be on this world is to suffer. So to suffer is to belong. So, dream or reality, I was confused for a bit, but this definitely happened. Callus essentially told Serway to do the deed with the Camion. Again, all this manipulation, and there's a point to it, and we'll get to it near the end of the book, but it involves Esmenet. Callus is one of the few, which is something I don't remember if we discussed in the first book, but it's something, you know, that not a lot of people are, and it's, you know, he can see other people. Kind of like in the first book, Mathonet saw a Camion. There should have been a tip-off to that on its own. Ximnus and Acamion's strange friendship. It's really heartbreaking to see as they continually devolve. Or for her phone again. The book was never read. Here as elsewhere, language betrayed the true nature of the activity. To say that a book was read was to make the same mistake as the gambler who crowed about winning as though he'd taken it by force of hand or resolve. To toss the number sticks was to seize a moment of helplessness, nothing more. But to open a book was by far the most profound gamble. To open a book was not only to seize a moment of helplessness, not only to relinquish a jealous handful of heartbeats to the unpredictable mark of another man's quill. It was to allow oneself to be written. For what was a book, if not a long consecutive surrender to the movements of another's soul? I really like that quote. I just want to share that with all of you. So Callus made Serway have sex with Acamion. 2, 1, make Esmenet upset, and to make Acamion feel guilt. Because if Acamion feels like he betrays Callus, he's going to be more willing to do things for Callus. Oh, I guess this is where it came up. I did it too early on the I can't speak to all face, but we don't give in order to receive, but because of it. So I'll move on from that. Acamion goes to this library and he's attacked and kidnapped. A demon assaults Serway pretending to be Callus. And by assaults, I mean in the only way this book knows how, which is sexual. Comes up again. It was only brought up a handful of times in the first book, but Nair's homosexuality, which is something that he's ashamed of. And it comes up, and I don't know if it's happening here, but I know it's very important to him and Callus in this book. Callus says something that's virtually impossible to disagree with when he talks about the equality of woman. There's a whole section where he talks to Esmenet about that. And right, it's so pervasive and it's so sickening, because in this book, when he says things, it's not just to the characters, it's almost like to us. And you can't help but kind of be swayed to an extent by it. But we know the full context. We know that he's manipulating these people. So it's not complete. But there's enough there, because he speaks so much truth, that you can't help but kind of listen. Despite the fact that this is all going to lead to, absolutely what it's going to lead to, with Esmenet falling in love with him. And of course, doing a sexual act with him. For a purpose, I'm sure. But as soon as Esmenet even entered the camp in this book, or was it the end of the last book, I knew that this would eventually happen. Part 3, the third march. I hate everything that Callus has done to this two women. It has gotten to the point where she's being manipulated, she's being changed. Esmenet, I mean. And Serway's just not even a person anymore. Just a blind, devout follower. And, there was jealousy before. There was a little standoffishness. Now it's, hey, if my man wants to do it with you, that's okay. So long as he's happy. Yeah, it's just, I don't like Callus. I don't think you really are meant to, but Achemian eventually escapes the Scarlet Spires with help of Ximnus. Those are the ones who captured him. However, Ximnus no longer has his eyes. And we learn for a fact that Callus' father controls some of the Kashirium. Prius confronts Callus. Fantastic scene. So one time on Prius. And he's not able to be completely swayed by Callus either. Serway gives birth to Callus' child, and he names his child Moangus. We get near the end of the book, and Serway gets her throat slit for calling Callus a god. Or the god. Achemian has a wonderful speech near the end. Nair fights fake Cersolus. A lot of other things happen too that I'm not getting into. But I mean, Callus, doesn't get crucified, but he has that sort of thing happen to him, but he comes back to life. And everybody's, starting to follow him now. Like, if they did it before, they're doing it now. And I haven't delved too much into Prius or anything. Prius is a really interesting character. He, is one of the few who's really, truly devout in what he believes and isn't trying to be a bad person. So he's a pretty nuanced character. If you want a more discussion about that, you can watch Philip Chase, Joanna, Jimmy, and Raph talk about that. But it's been a while since I read it, like I said, and I'm already making my way through Thousandfold Fly, and I should just overall give my opinion of the trilogy once I finish that. But I don't think I did this book justice. It's kind of hard to. The prose are exquisite. The story is actually pretty good. A lot of uncomfortable moments. But I can't say that I love when a book can challenge me. I love when I feel like I'm actually growing. This isn't just, I don't think anybody really reads this just for fun. But it really, even when it comes to my beliefs. And Malazan did this too. I don't mind. I never want to be an echo chamber. I don't want to believe what I believe just because I never have it challenged. And I've done that throughout the years. I used to, listen to atheist debates all the time with Christians and this and that. I think I've really grown a firm foundation in the things that I personally believe. And there's other things that I've faltered, and I've definitely with age and with time, and everybody will tell you this, you realize you really know nothing. And I would never claim to know for certainty where some of my beliefs lie. I believe beyond a reasonable doubt. I believe we got evidence. And evidence doesn't mean anything, we have this knowledge. We have these things. Now, what best fits the data? Follow truth wherever it leads. So, I believe the data fits a particular criteria. So, until significant evidence proves otherwise, I'm going to believe that beyond a reasonable doubt, because that's where the evidence seems to point. But, talking about this book, I love the themes. Even if I don't agree with everything, but I really love the themes. I really enjoy the characters and their struggles and their plights, even though it's really heartbreaking sometimes. And Kellis is just it's like we're watching a villain from the protagonist's perspective. But like, it's not as obvious, and he's a lot more insidious because he seems likable. But we know from the offshoot that he doesn't care about these people, or at least that's how it starts. Does he care a bit? Maybe. And it came in. He's no perfect snowflake. He's no perfect guy. He has plenty of flaws. But you can't help but feel bad for him. And Esminette, probably I guess besides Serway, she's the only other female. She is probably one of the best characters in the whole book. Such a smart person, full of potential. Kellis sees, and it came and realizes too late, and we'll get into that more in the next book. But it's just, I don't even know where it's going, but I'm interested to find out. And I know this may not be the best review ever. These are big brain books, and I'm not the smartest cookie in the world. But I hope this has provided something of stimulus to you. And with that, I'm going to leave you. I'm next with A Thousandfold Thought, and we conclude this trilogy. And I'm definitely taking a wild break, and we'll return with a quadrilogy that takes place after. If you want to see all that, if you want to hear my jumbled mess of stupid thoughts, because I'm no Philip Chase, well, definitely subscribe. And thank you all so much for watching, whether you stayed through the whole thing or stayed for 10 minutes or 2 minutes, or thank you all. And I appreciate you all, and thank you for listening. And until next time, go hug a puppy or something. Go read something a little bit happier. Anyway, have a good one.